Welcome aboard, National Football Show. It's your boy, Big Sills. I know the Hamlin story has dominated the headlines in the sports world, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. It's dominated. We're going to have some pretty tough conversations here concerning the National Football League. By the way, we got a lot of Eagle conversation, and it kind of applies with the Damar Hamlin story with Jalen Hurts. I first want to ask you this. Let's start here. I ran a poll on my Twitter page at Dan Sileo Show. Should the game be played? Should the game be suspended? Should they give both teams a tie? A lot of people have chimed in on it from both the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills' perspective. Let me throw something very critical out here in this conversation. God forbid Damar Hamlin dies. Do you think the NFL will cancel the season and the postseason? Do you think they'll cancel it? Do you think they'll cancel the postseason if, God forbid, the player dies? Vlad says no. Niners say hell no. Then what are we talking about here? You've got to play the game. You can't give home field advantage to the Chiefs. Both the Bengals and the Bills beat them this year. How is the NFL going to justify not playing this game? Let's walk back 2 steps. By the way, I think they're 2 different stories. Is everyone heartbroken over what happened on Monday night? Of course. But unless the league is going to cancel the postseason, the conversation has to go on because the league is going to barrel through this. They're going to play. So it is not a conversation that is disrespectful. What made Skip Bayless's conversation so disrespectful, they didn't give it a chance to breathe and let us see if the kid was going to be able to get on a gurney and get into an ambulance and get to a hospital and hopefully save his life. That's the problem. I got a new rule in my life when it comes to tweeting things out like that. You know what it is? It's called the 24-hour rule. Let's see this thing play out first, because knee-jerk reactions are usually going to get you in trouble when you make a comment. Okay? And he didn't. And that thing that they did today, how about Undisputed taking advantage of Damar Hamlin's injury to make themselves part of the story? How crazy was that? That's the stuff that I'm talking about. That's disgusting. Dude, let the kid try to recover here. Dr. Grossinger said yesterday, this is going to be a thing of time. We have to wait and see. Now, we're in a wait and see moment. That's right, Vlad. And we had to wait and see if he could be revived. You're tweeting out, should they play the game or not? Well, got to give that thing a chance to breathe a little bit, like the player. But that being said, what do? Do you play the game Monday? What if the kid dies? That's what the NFL's waiting for. They know what they're going to do. They're waiting to see if the kid lives. All bets are off if he dies, because then the league is put in an even difficult position. And the reason I start to show off with this is this. Unless the National Football League came out with a statement and said, our season is based on what happens with Damar and his health, then guess what? They're going to barrel on. Am I wrong? Some are probably going, Sills, this is a brutal conversation. It's a brutal moment in the league's history. You got to make sure that your public face doesn't undermine the health of Damar Hamlin. For the first time in NFL history, a player's health is dictating the league's actions. That kid's doing more for public awareness, for how these players have been treated for over 100 years than anyone else has in the history of the league. It's not a very good conversation, is it? What if he dies? What, you never thought? Oh, that's right, contingency plans. What, you never had a contingency plan if a player were to pass away on the field? How can that be with a brutal sport like this? You've got to play the game unless you're canceling the season. And if he's, from what we're hearing, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one here. From what we're hearing, his breathing has picked up, but you remember what you got to deal with here. You got to deal with potential strokes, maybe getting pneumonia. You've got to wait and see how this thing plays out yet. You think the league is going to wait until this weekend? Bills and Bengals are both going to play ball games this weekend. Home field advantage had a lot to do with that game on Monday night. The Chiefs should not benefit from the tragedy of Damar Hamlin when both the Bengals and Bills beat them. And if you're not going to cancel the postseason, this conversation is needed. When do you play the game? By the way, every player in that locker room has to come to this conclusion. Either I'm going to play or not. If I'm going to honor Damar Hamlin, that's the way I'm going to move forward. Brutal. Brutal. I'm not flipping a coin. Playing the game. Some are going, Dan. Well, I make this point to you all the time. How many people hate Deshaun Watson? How many people hate Deshaun Watson? This goes back to the league's ideology. How many people hate Deshaun Watson? How many people? I would say 70%. Instead, the league gave him a raise. It gave him the greatest contract in the history of the NFL. If you hated the guy so much, why didn't you ban him for life? Then I would have, and you want to know something? I'd have been fine with that. I'd have been fine with that. You don't like that kind of character in your league? Holy shit, the NFL stands up for something. But that's not how they operate. Brutal, but true. You risk further injury on a short week. Are you nuts? What injury to what are you talking about? What injury to who? Damar Hamlin's not playing this weekend. What are you talking about? Short work week. That's what Monday Night Football is all about. Play on Monday. Unless you're canceling the season. They're waiting to see if the kid lives. Bottom line. I love the way that the players and America has rallied around Damar Hamlin with his toy drive. It is an incredible story. It's an incredible story. It shows me, too, that the American football fan loves its players from every city. My conversation is more about the NFL, not you, the fan. You're better than the league. The fans are the greatest part of the NFL. Besides the fabulous players, it's you that motivates people in Philadelphia, Buffalo, Cincinnati. This is a true testament to the fans in this country that love football. Don't misunderstand me here. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the league here. Damar Hamlin's health is a life top priority, Sills. Yeah, to us. Absolutely to us. To the players. To the fans. You're in this with us now. I saw Bengal and Bills fans hugging one another in that stadium, giving people tissues. Shit, I was crying. I felt for the kid. I felt for all of our brothers watching this. Putting it to perspective, the dangers of the sport. And the fans were right there with us. What does the league do? We already know what they're going to do. They're going to play. The NFL doesn't miss games, even during a pandemic. But see, this happened on their field. This happened in their house. And everyone's pointing their eyes towards Park Avenue. Steve says the league is evolving. To some extent, I agree, Steve. I think they're getting better. I do. Compared to when Paul Tagliabue was the commissioner and he had a hairdresser that was overseeing CTE, absolutely. From the hairdresser to where we are now, there is no doubt about it. Jason says reports, and I concur. Jason, I've been listening to those same reports, and I'm getting the same intel as you. That he's improving. God willing, he lives. God willing. And we all pray that he does. Shit, I pray he gets back on a football field and to pursue his dream.